Here we go.
We
Ready?
are ready.
All right.
As ready as I'll ever be.
Jesus. All right, here we go. Good start. All right, here we go. 3, 2. Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy 2024.
Happy 2024. And sorry we ghosted you guys. That's really
Sorry for partying, but we weren't partying.
We were partying, guys. Yeah, we obviously missed last week, but I will tell everyone, welcome to No Puns Allowed with Paige and Kramer. A little bit more congested than usual for the both of us. We have both been very sick.
Yes.
And unable to record the pod. My washing machine is going off and saying that my clothes are clean. So we've just got background noise. We've got all the things.
Yeah, we got pretty normal.
Yeah, it's been kind of a hectic week for the both of us. Started off with you being like, hey, buddy, I don't feel good. Then a couple days later, I'm like, hey, buddy, I have no voice. So we've really just been going through it. And we obviously worked through it, which is wild because there's a lot of football to talk about. But first and foremost, we are back.
We are back. And I feel, let's see, I look better than I feel, I think.
Okay.
People on YouTube will be like, fuck that. No, I look better than I feel. I've got municipal going. I also have to say this. Now, in my sickness, where I was starting to unravel and feel really crappy, I had my municipal shoes on. I cannot tell you the number of compliments I've gotten about my new municipal shoes. I'm actually terrified to wear them because I don't want to screw them up. So,
yeah.
Yes, there's a lot. It's been a very municipal heavy last couple of weeks, a lot of loungewear.
Yeah, same.
But obviously municipal.com, go check it out. No Punch 20% off your first order. We are, even if we're not 100%, still decked out in municipal gear, which I'm very, very happy with.
Yes. Those shirts that are my favorite, they sent me a couple, and those have been my go-to shirts for the last couple of, probably like the last week.
Yeah, it's been rough, by the way. This is about the, mine kicked in on Christmas Day, hard, really hard, to the point where I just vanished and went to my bed. And it's not relinquished. So watching bowl games, I love this time of year too. So we've made it work. I've made it work, but it's not been on my terms, which I don't love. I feel like I'm being deprived one of the greatest times of our calendar. We have a lot to talk about, by the way. So even though we're playing hurt, buddy, holy shit. We got 2 good semis. We got two good semis. We never get 2 good semis. I'm very, very excited about that. So which game you want to talk about first? What's your biggest takeaway?
Let's start with the elephant in the room, that Michigan beat Alabama. First of all, what a great game.
What a great game.
It's strange because I think we did this because we were writing on the game.
Yep.
I thought that Alabama was going to win that game. Obviously, Michigan proved otherwise and proved pretty clutch, especially in situations they really haven't been forced into this season.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly impressive. Obviously, there is the zoo of a media frenzy around all of the external stuff, but the football at its core was amazing. That was why the committee put Alabama in.
Yeah.
That was, I know there was a lot of talk over the Georgia FSU game, even though, that was not the FSU team you would have seen if they were in the playoff.
That was wild. We will talk about that.
I think it was better. It was easier to say, like, hey, this Alabama-Michigan game is the reason that Alabama was put in, and that was the right call to put this team in because this game was so amazing, despite the fact that they lost.
It was a weird game, weird pacing. You had stretches where neither team looked like they could do much. You had Noro running for his life as first. You had J.J. McCarthy, who had a long kind of series, I guess, but then made some really good plays. Michigan D-line played outstanding. Harbaugh is so bad at the post game, by the way. I can't.
He doesn't answer any of the questions. It's so horrible.
So horrible. He is like he just is doing everything in his power to not answer these questions, and it's painful to watch. Quite honestly, it really is. It's so like I have to like mute my TV at this point because you know what he's going to do. He's just like going to say something completely unrelated to what's being asked, and then just disappear into the back.
Yeah, it's actually really frustrating to watch. I've said this on this podcast before because there's been interviews where he's like run away or doesn't answer or is kind of rude to sideline reporters, and that's like a known thing that he doesn't like it and he's not going to answer really any questions. But it just frustrates me that like those sideline reporters take the time to really like try to make it worth his while being there, and he still continues to be kind of off the wall. And I think he also has just refused. I don't know if you saw the sit down with, was it Marty Smith that did the Michigan one?
I did not see it.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I did not see it.
Okay, so he did a sit down and they asked about the stuff going on and he did the exact same thing. The exact same thing where it was like, this is supposed to be, like, answer the question. He's like, oh, for legal purposes, you know, I can't. He didn't say for legal purposes. He's like, for purposes outside of my control, I'm not able to comment on that. And I will say, and then like diverts it to something that's like completely irrelevant to the conversation. Instead of just saying, we recognize that there's an issue here. There's obviously conversation. We're handling it. Moving on. Like it just, instead of being like, I can't answer that, he comes up with an answer that's not an answer. It's just really obnoxious.
Not only that, but just to quickly like sidetrack, and then we'll get to the other game. We'll obviously talk about these two teams a bit too. He hired like Tom Brady's agent in all this. Dougie, right? Like he hired like Sean Payton's agent too, correct? Like this is an NFL powerhouse agent.
Yeah.
This is happening, right?
Despite the rumors swirling that he's going to the NFL. When someone asked him after the game, he's like, this is just a perfect example of Jim Harbaugh. This is Jim Harbaugh in a nutshell. The reporter said, you know, we have to ask you about your future. And he's like, I'm just looking forward to the really exciting flight home. Like, I want him to go to the NFL so bad. I just want him to go. I'm willing it because I just need it to go because this is just.
I think I'm done.
Too much.
I've supported this man for a while. You know this. I picked them to win the national championship. I'm not going to stray away from that.
Do you have a bet on that, by the way?
Not yet, but futures bet? Yes. I'm sorry. I thought you meant title game.
Okay, I have a future on Washington that I put in when we were sitting in New York right before the show.
What did you get them at? You got them good, right? Like
plus 700.
That's nice. So I think I'm done with Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And I respect he's incredible as a coach. But if he wins this, regardless, and we'll talk about it, like this is it, I think. Like we've said this is it for a long time. I've said this is it before the season started. Like all signs are pointing to this being it.
He absolutely. And I think the big thing is he should go. This is the perfect opportunity. Win or lose that national championship game, you have nothing left to prove, really. Even if you don't win the national championship, I still think he's proved what he needed to prove. Beat Ohio State, won a playoff semi. Obviously, it was 0-2 before this. Like, you know what? It is what it is. And yeah, he did. And also the other part of this for Michigan, if you're Michigan, you want him to leave. Like at this point, you have the coordinators. You know who your next coach is going to be.
Right there.
You don't need to worry about what's next. It's a clean move on. Here we go. And I think that's why it works so well is because they've seen that they can have success without him being around in there. And yes,
the guy. Like head coach. It's easy. Like it's an easy.
It just makes it so easy. And you know that also if Harbaugh is not there, the NCAA is not going to be as harsh because they've already served some of these bans and like they've kind of protected themselves. They're kind of in a very good spot if he does leave. And it sounds like he's going to because of the fact that like he's hired this agent.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not going to say anything, especially not after the national championship. I know this was a conversation work-wise, just behind the curtain. Like, what do we do if Harbaugh says he's leaving after this? And I'm like, there's no way that he is going to say after winning a national championship or losing a national championship that he is leaving. you will have a day or two before that news
Well,
comes
it's
out. Before we
also
get the report.
so you think about the timing. It's very interesting. So Black Monday is next Monday for the NFL,
Yes.
which is always a terrible day, by the way, where you have some jobs that are open up already, right? Like Los Angeles
Yeah.
Chargers job, which whatever it's going to be, there will be jobs. So the timing is very interesting though, because historically we've had to wait. Like Michigan's season is done, the Harbaugh stuff kicks in. You probably don't have to wait this year, right? Like very long, a couple of days.
It'll
like
be
you
next
said.
week.
Yeah, like Michigan wants to figure it out. Harbaugh wants to figure it out. These NFL teams are going to start the interviewing process, and probably some probably have. So I think that this is just it. And either way, and I think it will be a success. If sign stealing be damned, if you're Michigan, like you're a reputable program again, at least in terms of performance on the field and wins and all that shit. You beat Ohio State 3 times. If you're Harbaugh, you did the thing, whether you win or not. Like you have. And
yeah,
I guess that's a natural transition to try to do the thing against Washington. So, okay, we have
been so high on this Washington team all year. And for those people that made fun of me for ranking them number 1 when we did a midseason top 10, joke's on you, buddy. Joke is on you.
Now, I first have to talk about the nature of the end of this game. Okay, I want to talk about Michael Penix. Because he's amazing. But
yeah,
the bat shittery revolving around the end of this game. Frankly, Texas probably should have won. Steve Sarkisian, the greatest scripter in football, forgot how to script plays, and Quinn Ewers kind of lost his mind, which is probably not something you should say out of a guy that was being evaluated for concussion. But like it was, they had 4 plays.
Well,
things are going well. We're sick, cough medicine, whatever. You had like 4 plays like that you think they would have scored. Now, getting to that play, you had Washington cannot run clock. They need to think about this. And so rather than take knees, they're running a running back who has been injured for months and gets hurt and now has to stop the clock. Now, that's a very bad rule, and it will change. If you are trying to run clock and your player gets hurt, just like you give teams the ability to, like, do you want the 10-second runoff or no?
Yeah.
Texas can decline it, right? That has to change. That's a bad rule. And it will change. But what are you doing? Washington, what are you doing?
I was so worried that that's how the Pac-12 was going to go out. I was unwell. Like, the end of both of those games led me to just be severely unwell. Like, I wear a heart monitor, and or like something that checks my heart, by the way. Like a ring. I should just clarify that we're not wearing our actual heart monitors here. Something that can check my heart rate. How about that?
That's great.
Heart rate monitor.
However you just described it was, that's like no puns perfection right there. Like turning just completely random thought into a 3 paragraphs.
Couldn't condense it.
Yeah.
Couldn't condense it. So I checked at both times. So I checked right after the Alabama game, because that OT after timeout, waiting for that last play, which, by the way, oh my God, what were we doing? I then checked it again right after the Washington final minutes, and I was like, both times just spiked. And what's so funny about that is, like, I didn't actually have a stake in either of those games, really. Like, I obviously wanted Alabama to win, and I thought Alabama was going to win. I obviously was rooting for Washington to win, but it still just spiked regardless, because I was like, this is just such intense college football playoff. Like, this is like one play or 30 seconds to decide going to a national championship or not. Like, I mean, it gave me like Ohio State last year, just like that, the defeat, like, if for Washington would have been so bad. So yeah, I'm glad it came out the way that it did. But what great semifinal games that saved bowl season. We have to acknowledge the fact that bowl season was a little awful because of the state of college football right now. Yeah. I also just don't want to harp on that, because again, it's gonna change, you guys. Like, listening to people get upset about how bad bowl games are and how the transfer portal's ruined everything and blah blah blah. I'm like, you guys, next year is going to be so different. You're not going to have as many opt-outs. The transfer portal stuff's going to change. They're going to have to change the timelines because they can't have people playing in semifinals and then having rosters changing and people trying to do roster management. They're going to fix it. Early signing, all of it. They're going to fix it. So we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay.
I agree with you. I do think the sport has a mess on its hands, though. And I think that the transfer portal in general is just like, and I have no issues with people transferring. I'm always just trying to bet on these games, trying to watch these games, trying to write about these games. I'll look at it just selfishly, what we do. Like, to enjoy these games, to cover these games, we look and study this stuff a lot. And there are certain bowl games that are moving, points, like just like fucking like, wait, what happened? Who's not playing? Oh, Frank Harris has scored. Like, there were so many times where I missed out on good value or I screwed it up. Like, it was really, really, it's difficult.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, and I don't think it's like the timing of the transfer portal is the big one.
That
would solve a lot of those problems. You're still going to have opt-outs. You're still going to have that. I mean, that stuff's not going to go away. But when you do the 12-team playoff, like how much, and I want to give Washington and Michigan the appropriate shine, and we'll preview the game. But how much fun is a 12-teamer going to be? Like,
I'm so excited. Watching and like, you can't look at the results of this year and think that it would be the same because, like, obviously there's opt-outs and things like that, but like seeing Bo Nix play, like, shout out to Bo Nix, by the way, for playing in his bowl game.
Fun, great way to go out.
You get to watch that. Like, I mean, Ole Miss, an entertaining game. Like, there's a lot of pieces of it and a lot of teams that are getting so much better even next year. Like, we saw what Florida State did with the transfer portal. I think Ole Miss is going to be so good next year.
I'm kind of there too.
It is going to be incredible. Yes. I genuinely believe that, like, the transfer portal is going to make teams so good that the level of competition in that 12-teamer is going to be insanity. I think we're going to get something similar with, like, one losses and got people with no losses, like undefeated teams. Again, we can't even just find the word undefeated.
Sorry. Yeah, speak for yourself, but yeah. I'm very clean this episode.
I'm proud of you.
I'm with you. Ole Miss. But I just think it's
going to be so good. I think next year with 12 teams, you're going to have a realignment that makes, teams like Michigan play better teams during the year. It's going to be so good. I just cannot wait. I think you see the pieces like sort of falling into place. And to your point earlier, like, it is a complete cluster, right now. Like, the sport itself is just a mess. But this mess is going to lead to something very beautiful.
The viewership, you look at I'm not going to be ratings guy, but
but here we go. We love being, let's just clear the air. We love being ratings people.
Oh, no, we totally
numbers don't lie. Like, ball don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
It is. By the way,
the numbers of the semifinals and the Alabama-Michigan game, specifically the Rose Bowl, wow.
I love it. Wow. All of this is in the context of, like, let's exclude the NFL. And if you do that, college football is like a monster. It is NFL light. It's NFL junior. So I think for all the sports, NFL light. By the way, college football fans would be upset with that. Like, not me. Like, NFL is, like, right now, it's the greatest monster moving. College football is there for all of its imperfections. And people say, this sucks. This is, and yeah, there's some truth to it. It's fine. College football is fine. The demise that we've been talking about, is it perfect? No. There are, after going through it, you're absolutely right. Like, this sport, like, Kevin has talked about it. Everybody's kind of actively saying, like, this is kind of fucked up. And it is. It still is great. And these bowl games, even for as fucked up as they are, I still want to watch them. I still want to bet on them.
They're horrible.
I mean,
yeah, I will say, though, we do need to give credit where credit is due to the marketing team of Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
It transcended college football. It was a pop culture moment. People that I know that don't watch football knew about the Pop-Tart mascot and the Pop-Tart Bowl. That really, that is college football at its finest, where like even in the crappiest of crappy bowl games and bowl seasons that we've had, a Pop-Tart and a edible mascot were the talk of the town, and it was amazing. It was so good and such great content. And also I love that like we as college football fans like don't blink an eye at this kind of stuff,
It doesn't even phase
because
us.
it's just so ingrained into the spirit of college football. But that stuff is starting to get better and better. Shout out to the Cheez-It though too, even though it didn't do it justice in the Citrus Bowl, but still.
You want to talk about the Citrus Bowl?
Again.
You do?
Again.
No, no other bowl games happened. Iowa didn't play, by the way.
Oh, you know who did play though?
The
Arizona Wildcats.
That was fun. That was
the
fun.
Big 12, by the way.
Oh, it's going to
be
banana
so scared.
land. It's going to be banana.
Should be so scared. We have so many people coming back. I literally can't even begin to tell you how excited I am about next year for Arizona football.
We're going to have time to lead into all this because like the reality of next year is starting to take shape with like the playoff and realignment.
Yes.
And like the Big 12 is like, I don't know, your drunk uncle's favorite conference because it's just, you don't know who's going to be playing in it. You're like, wait, that team's there? You're going to be doing that in like October, right? Like when Cincinnati moved, I had an adjustment. The Big 12 is going to be insane. So, no, I can't wait. Now, before we talk championship, let's do a little housekeeping. There's not many things. I did want to talk about what J.J. McCarthy said. I think this was, where was this? Pat McAfee show, which is the beacon of all news right now. Don't want to talk about my quarterback, by the way. So J.J. McCarthy basically said, and I quote, that Michigan players did things the right way. Now, that's the quote that's interesting. But here's the part that really caught me. You and I were talking pre-show. So McCarthy on Wednesday also alleged rival Ohio State was legally stealing their signs. In 2019 or 2020, the Wolverines had to adapt. Here's this quote. They were doing it in a legal way. We had to get up to the level they were at and make it an even playing field. It sucks because we do work our butts off. We do watch so much film and look for the little tendencies. Spend like 10 to 15 minutes on one clip alone just looking for all the little details, the posture of the linebackers or the DM, little stuff like that, where it's like, okay, I didn't realize this quote was going to be, this is not me, by the way. This is J.J. McCarthy. For people that listen to this, like, there goes Adam again. Okay, you can say it's all sign stealing, but you know there's a lot more that goes into that play. So, like, again, I am Team Michigan. I actually like J.J. McCarthy. Not as much as the random scouts do, but what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Like, no.
For legal purposes, that's not good. Like, that is basically an admission of guilt. In the court of law, that is no punts allowed. That is an admission of guilt to you guys sign stealing and doing, you may do it the right way and you may be trying and not really understand the rules of the NCAA as a player, and you're saying that you're, taking the time to work really hard, which I don't discredit they're doing. Because again, you could have someone's signs, but you do have to execute. But that is not a good look if you're Michigan, and if you're Michigan's SID, you're not thrilled with that statement necessarily. I know what he was getting at, and it was just too. Like, look, well, but also like you should never. I know it's a rivalry, but like you should never.
Way to go, by the way. Throw
that out to Ohio State. Thank you so much that I didn't say why will we.
Every time I hear the word, I have to like my programming goes a little weird because it's just that's the word. Why will we?
Exactly. But no, you should not bring Ohio State into it. That was a bad idea. And then the second part is like saying that like we had to adjust, basically being like we did have to adjust and we did have some sort of like more than just the normal tape stuff going on. That the normal film, like that was the part that I'm like, oh, That's so not good. That's a bad look.
It's not a great look. The other thing I want to talk about is Nick Saban. And every year we're going to do this thing where we openly question, like, was this the last year for Nick Saban? You and I have talked about this God knows how many times of his retirement, which makes us both sad. And he was Miss Terry was asked about this after the game, which is funny. And she's like, "Oh, we're not going to talk to him now." And then you see recruits who are like, "Oh no, he ain't retired." So he's getting older. He's getting older. He still looks good. He still looks engaged. As long as he's healthy, we think he's going to keep going. We hope he's going to keep going. But the questions are getting a little bit more steam, I feel like, naturally, as he's getting up there in age. And I'm curious, as a resident Alabama scribe.
Homer.
What you were hearing this, like, what are you thinking about when these things start to surface?
Well, for starters, I think the reason they're gaining more steam is because this is the first time that he's had 3 consecutive years without a national championships in his tenure.
Which is crazy, by the way.
Alabama. And like that's hard when something like a dynasty, you start to say, okay, this is a tangible thing to say the dynasty is on the downward spiral here. Age obviously factors into it. I think we are legitimately going to see Coach Saban coach until there's something that really makes him not available to coach, whether it be just health-wise, family-wise, whatever. But the other part that is like so surprising to me that is going to be really sad when he is gone is just how well he adapts, despite being like, he stays who he is, but he adapts. And like just the thoughtfulness in his conversation. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to him on Pat McAfee this year at all. Just the insight and the willingness to not take himself so seriously, but also still be true to who he is and what we know Nick Saban to be in his program, is massive. Like I think that is just such a testament to how amazing he is and how much college football will miss him when he is not coaching. I don't think he'll leave. I think we're gonna see broadcaster Nick, I feel like, for sure. We still do usually when he's not around during the semifinals, but it's sad, and I think it is going to come to an end at some point, but I don't think we're there yet. And I think
I don't think so either.
I think it's smart too of, Terry, and I'm sure Kristen and everybody who gets these sort of questions in their family to sort of be like, we're not gonna go with it. There's just
no
nothing.
Need to answer.
We've answered it a lot over the years, and like there's just no need to even deny that like it's gonna come to an end soonish. But I don't think it's imminent at all.
I don't think so either. I think obviously they still have a really good team. And by the way, we were talking before. They had, I think, 9 players enter the transfer portal, including their center, which I will just leave that comment there. No need to talk about it, but just probably time for a little zip code change. Understandably, look, it's tough. It's a brutal job. I would not want to do it, but it's time. So they had 9 players enter the portal. We are going to hit on the portal soonish. We are going to do like a comprehensive who's where. Julian Fleming, the Ohio State receiver, went to Penn State, committed today. It's a big commitment. We want to talk about Ole Miss. We want to talk about all these things in one place, and we will do that. We will
have a transfer podcast after.
It's so fucking hard, man. There's just so much content.
There is.
But let's talk championship.
Yes.
Michigan versus I almost said Alabama. Michigan versus Washington. The point spread is 4.5. You know this, so I didn't have to do against the point spread. And the total is 55.5. Michigan is minus 185 money line. Washington plus 154. Now, we didn't really lean. We leaned into Washington almost like blowing off their foot with their own shotgun. We didn't really get to lean into Michael Penix doing. I have seen him do some crazy shit. These throws, in terms of accuracy and where the ball placement, The offensive line play, wow. I mean, Texas could not get to the passer, and Penix, even when he was under pressure, was a magician. It was one of the greatest quarterbacking performances I've ever seen. And obviously he's got weapons, and he's got a great OC, and they know how to use them, et cetera, et cetera. It's an awesome test to see now this go up against a defensive line that's going to create more havoc. Texas is good, but where Texas has really not been very good is the secondary. And Texas D-line was great, but they were fucking out of gas and putting all sorts of new bodies in.
Yeah.
And so you have like good on good, right? And you have contrasting styles. So I just stylistically, I love this football game. I don't even, like, forget about side. I just love this football game because I'm really curious to see how Michigan does what Texas could not, which is make Penix uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be the key to them winning. Like, you have to get to him. It's kind of like, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of like playing the Ravens, where, like, you have to get to Lamar, or, like, you have no chance. Like, they're going to score theirs. And, like, this Washington offense was the Washington offense that we saw very early on in the season. And it's also a team that beat Oregon twice, which is very hard to do. And so I have all the confidence in the world that this is not going to be like the national championship from last year.
God, I hope not.
It's not. I really believe that it's not. And I think especially seeing Washington play against Alabama, I think that's going to be such good tape for Washington, because I think before, obviously, they didn't have that many challenges. Okay, let's be real. I know they were saying that in the post-game interview, like, oh, nobody said we played anybody. Well, you guys had an easier schedule for sure. But yeah, I'm still like, I'm probably gonna bet on Washington. It's an emotional pick. Pac-12 going out with the title. Like, I want it so bad. Big Ten does not get to claim them yet. All right, not time.
No, it's not time. We can't do that. I'm ready. It's not.
And it is going to be a tough matchup for Washington for sure. Defensively, I'm a little nervous because when Blake Corum gets going, that's kind of a hard thing to stop. That's got to be
the strategy, right? Is ball control. Washington was incredible in terms of ball control, while also having big plays.
Yeah.
What was it, the third quarter? They had it for like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So
and the Alabama Michigan game was just like a turnover city.
No.
Also, Michigan special teams, holy smokes.
That guy, who was that punt returner? That guy looked like, I can't blame him, by the way. I've not seen a man shit his pants on television before. That poor bastard, I felt so bad. Like, before he caught it, you're like, oh no. This guy.
That is probably one of the scariest almost plays in all of college football. Like, that could have been.
Oh, but I guess if you're Michigan, by the way, yeah, special teams not great. That's a good point.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. But you're like, Blake Corum should carry the ball 32 times, and we're gonna bleed this clock, and we're gonna murder ball you to death. That needs to be the Harbaugh strategy. And then when he's not carrying it, we're going to do cross patterns, and we want 7-minute drives, and we're going to keep that dude Penix on the sideline. That's your strategy. I guess it has to be.
Exactly. Yeah. No, completely. It's going to be a good game. I'm very excited about it, but I am definitely going to bet Washington just because, one, value, and two, like, why not? Like, why not?
I also, like, a lot of people, the Penix Heisman conversation has kicked up in earnest again, which is a little annoying for me, because, like, okay, are we not watching Washington? First of all, are we not? And we're probably not, because there's 900 Heisman voters.
Pac-12 team, and
but why are we doing this thing? Like, Jaden Daniels was incredible. We could be at peace with our decision.
His season was a complete season. Penix had games where he struggled.
Penix struggled.
It's
Also, by the way, one of the other things that'll be very interesting, like, you and I have talked about this, down the stretch, Washington played some weird games. Washington State, Stanford, like, every game felt like it was weird.
Okay.
Arizona State, And Penix at times looked like really out of sorts. Like there was no reason to be out of sorts in this game. But if Michigan gets to him, right, and makes him uncomfortable, which he did not have to deal with at all, like what version of him do we see?
Well,
Like,
the thing with Washington is like I said this before, they play up or down to who they're playing against. Like that always was the case. Like in big games, they showed up. They did what they needed to do. Like they played up or down to their opponent. And I feel like in the Texas game, that was the first time that they had a level opponent that they kind of put their foot on the gas. Obviously, the last minute of that game was just terrible, but they did put their foot on the gas and kept going. And that was the part that I was like, okay, I feel like they have gotten a decent amount of people back from injury that they had prior to playoff time. And obviously they're suffering from another major injury and we don't know the status. In a week is not enough to get you back. But like the month that they kind of had before, the couple weeks leading before, got them fully healthy. There was questions if Penix was fully healthy. Like there's just a lot. And so I think at this point in time, this Washington team is fully prepared for this. And also they're very, very well coached. I cannot say enough that like OC, head coach, like, yeah, that part. OC and head coach wise, like those guys could have been taken anywhere, you know, and it's such the guys that have come back that were NFL eligible to come back and play, like the story writes itself here. So I'm very much team Washington, and I know that sounds very like anti-Michigan, but I'm also very excited to see how this Michigan team plays against Washington.
So,
and also shout out the Pac-12, really. Pac-12 after dark.
I like Michigan, but I'll say this: I've been fortunate enough. I picked Georgia a few years ago. I don't think I was right last year. I picked Michigan, which they were one of the favorites. When you have a pick of like, this is what I think is going to happen, to be quite honest, it's hard to deviate from that.
Yeah, obviously you won't. Well, not only the betting part, but just the being right part.
But to be right, that's what I mean. I'm being fully transparent. Like I want to be right.
Yeah.
Like
so I mean, I talked about Washington being the number one team in the country during the middle of the season.
So like, there's a stubbornness.
We both want to be right here.
We both want to be right, and that should be okay too, right? But I want to admit that, like, I just even still, and I love Penix. I bet him to win the Heisman. I love Washington. We all do. There is a shred of doubt that when they put these two teams on the field, the athlete, and Texas does not have this athlete yet. I saw a lot of people, oh, look what they did to Texas. Like, let's be real. Texas has not built a roster like Michigan's or Alabama's or Georgia's. They've got some really good individual players, but you saw the D-line and the secondary, they don't have a surplus of dudes yet. And people who I follow who cover Texas were like, yeah, the secondary has been an issue. Sark's got to fix it. Like,
yeah,
Michigan has dudes. This is probably the best secondary in college football, one of the best. The D-line is a bunch of monsters. Like, this is not a TCU Georgia situation by any means. It's not like the different athlete. But you do wonder what it will look like. And that's what I'm really curious with, is how do they stack up front? Because Washington
we'll see.
Has not seen something like this just yet.
We will see a Pac-12 versus Big Ten.
How fucking sad is it, by the way, that the Pac-12 is in this game?
Is gone
and is dying.
You see that the commissioner of the Pac-12 after
he needs to shut the fuck
semifinal,
up.
he said, he was like, if schools would have had like a bit more patience, like, buddy, patience out the window with Larry Scott. We've been patient. You guys were months delayed on delivering something you promised. You specifically, not somebody else.
No, he bragged about this TV deal for a year that never came. Like, and I get it. I'm not saying that's easy. But
it's not. But don't promise these things, and don't blame the schools for the fact that this has been a horrible, horrible mishap. Of these universities also had to think of the fact that they were going to be left behind in the sport if they didn't do something. They had to take matters into their own hands. So for him to sit there and say that and take away from Washington's moment, instead of just saying yeah, it's sad that this is, the last hurrah for this idea of the Pac-12. Really made me mad because it was like,
I agree.
you are equally as guilty of not producing, and these schools were so patient to get a deal in order, a TV deal. But after a while, you are doing a disservice to the student athletes, which it's supposed to be about, but actually it's not. It would have but just been more money for you. And that's why you're upset about this and saying the things you're saying.
Could you imagine right now if the Pac-12, if this was the negotiating period and it was a stable world and the contracts, like this was the renegotiation period right now?
Oh, if this was last year,
the Pac-12
off-season?
would be, it would be so different. It would be so different. And you could have saved it without USC and UCLA.
Yep.
You had plenty of horses there to make a really compelling conference. You add a couple of pieces. You lose a lot.
The two best teams in the conference.
Yeah, they're going to be good for
had not left. I know brand wise, but still Oregon, huge brand. No offense to Washington, because they're still a big brand too. But UCLA and USC, big loss, obviously. But you could have saved it. You're right. If we were in the we had this current season, and it was last year when everything was kind of going crazy, this would have been completely different for the Pac-12.
Not only that, but my Big Ten feels like this is a good stock buying period, by the way, for the Big Ten.
Good grief.
I'm just saying. All right, so we have a title game. You and I were supposed to go to this title game. We are not going.
We have got to get healthy.
Because physically we are not there, which makes me really sad.
Yes.
But I can't imagine sitting next to me. For anybody on YouTube, I have been muting for a good chunk of this episode, coughing. And like, if you're listening, you're like, wow, this guy, he's not sick. No, it's been bad. So we need to get healthy.
We are really, really sad because one, this is our favorite time of year to get together. We obviously this year have had the opportunity, I guess technically last year, have had the opportunity to get together in person more often because of the playoff show in New York. But
feels like that was 6 months ago.
This is our favorite time of year and our favorite experience because you also get to see people you don't see all year that you exchange tweets with, all kinds of things.
It sucks.
It's a real bummer for us, and you know that we're down bad if we're giving up the national championship. But both of us were like, we need to get healthy and also traveling, it takes a toll on you, and we know this because we were traveling back and forth to New York quite a bit.
I can't imagine sitting on an airplane next to me right now. I mean, in general, but especially right now.
Yeah.
So no, but I am still looking forward to this, and then it's done, by the way. And I don't know if that, because it's been such a weird few weeks, I don't know if that reality is fully set in yet for me, that it's actually over. Normally it is. Normally by now it's like, I don't want to say I'm ready, but normally I'm like, I'm at peace with it. I am not at peace with it this year. It still feels like there's season left for some reason. And it's gonna be really difficult to accept that.
Yeah, it is gonna be hard. I feel the same, despite the fact that we had much more going on during this season.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was so exhausted last season, and I don't know what has been keeping me going this season, especially with being sick. But there's just something about this that feels like it's just too soon and too quick. And it's also because we're so used to having a little bit more time.
Yes.
After the semis and getting to national championship, just the way the schedule worked out this year, it's like a week apart. And yes, it is the following week usually, but travel-wise, it's so different than what we are used to. And so I feel a little bit rushed into the end of the season. And I think our next pod reacting to the national championship will be kind of a sad one that it's over.
All right. So random shit. What random shit do you have? Do you have random shit?
No, I mean, I got a new TV for Christmas and I'm so excited to use that. And I feel like you would be proud that I'm excited about a television. So that is that.
I am excited. I got a new couch in my basement.
See?
My basement right now, I've leveled up because we did buy a new TV. I am contemplating. So this is a potential next season move. So right now I have a 75-80 in the middle, and then I think it's a 37-37 on each side. It might be a 42.
You're so ridiculous.
So what I'm contemplating, because we put in this new TV in the middle, and it's a little bit lower. It's good, actually, good lower. I can probably get 2 more 37s on top of the other 37s. So I could go 75, 37, 37, 37, 37.
You have 5 TVs.
5 TVs. I am debating this.
I like it. I say go for it.
I think this is going to be next fall. I was talking about this with neighbor Jason, and I'm envisioning it, and I'm like, yeah, if this is done right, this could be badass. Now, there are so few times throughout a year where you need 5 TVs, right?
There's actually not, because I use 4 plus a computer or an iPad during the regular season on Saturdays.
But outside of that,
oh yes, outside of like football, yes, there's no real reason besides
like March Madness would be amazing. Like it would be it would be an incredible March Madness.
Besides major sporting events,
so I'm thinking about leveling up yet again.
You could put like other casts on and just switch sound, but I think the big thing is that it sounds like we're gonna need to do a live watch along next year in your basement.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's
that sounds like a Paige is coming to the Kramer household.
Games. I've got Golden Tee. I mean, like it's
kids, Caitlin, and all. I think everybody's gonna need to be in it.
It's the only basement man cave. I'll use that very outdated and piggish term that has this setup, 2 arcade games, a tumbling mat for my daughters, and is littered with Nerf bullets. It is a stew of people trying to live their best life, and me, a small piece of it. So I am, yes, I am leveling up, and I think I'm like, like the new strength coach comes in and is like, all right, we're gonna get stronger, our endurance. That's like me with my TVs, like. All right, it's time to get stronger.
We try and level up every college football season, and I feel like in normal, no puns allowed form, we do in some aspects, and other aspects, we are still as chaotic as ever, which wouldn't be us if it wasn't,
It's very true. So yes, we have a championship game on Monday. We have a pod next week. We will recap all of that.
Yep.
And we got to start talking about everything else.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
So, anything else before we leave? So your official pick, Washington?
Yep.
My official pick is Michigan, of course.
Michigan. So we're going against each other.
We're going against each other in true no punts fashion. We'll break it all down next week. We hope everybody stay healthier than us and enjoy the game, and we will talk to you guys soon.